Welcome back to CoastBoxOffice. In this video we're talking about branding, and it's important that you get your head around branding because everything falls under a brand or a number of brands in the system. As we talked about in the previous videos, the system is heavily integrated with search engines, and branding is the focal point of what we do here. It's all about pushing brands. Now, if you are a community theatre group, it's very likely that your agency, or rather your business entity, is also your brand. If you're, say, Central Coast Theatre Company, and that's your name, then that's probably your operating name, and it's also the name that you brand yourself under. They're one and the same, but in the system they're actually distinctly different. Now, if we look back at what we did with agency, we can see that we have the opportunity to put in our trading name, which should be our legal trading name, and we can also associate with a brand in order to rebrand how our agency appears publicly. So let's look at how we set that up, and this is under new brand here. And it's important that we get this done out of the way first. And let's say that we have my theatre company. That's already there. My theatre group. Let's say that my theatre group is the name of our theatrical group. If it would actually stick, there we go. And now in a lot of cases, you will find that particularly community theatre, they use the abbreviations all the time, even though that's not great marketing. I always recommend that you always use your full qualified name of the brand. But in this case, MTG may be the what it's also known as. Now we can separate multiple names here. Let's just call it. And what it means is that whilst these are not promoted, the system knows that anything that comes through with MTG or theatre group is a part of or will be associated with this brand. And it's important that you consider that because we do take news feeds, and we want to associate those news feeds with the correct brands within the system, and that just allows users to flow through the system. They can see the news article and they can immediately click through to the brand, and the brand shows and access the content. So that's what this is. It might be a hashtag that you're putting out there that you use to promote your theatre group, and that's the case. Put it in here. Separate it with a comma if you've got more than one. We also, the brand bio, here is my theatre bio info. Put in your information, and again, the more information that you put in, the better it is. The more traction it gets in the search engines, and particularly with Google and Facebook and things like that. Status, we're just going to leave that as pending approval at the minute, because basically we just want to set things up before we go live. And what you need to understand is that, particularly with brands, it does create something of a hierarchy because all events sit underneath a brand. So if you have a whole bunch of events under a brand, which is approved, and you then change it back to pending approval, all of those events will all of a sudden disappear from public view because their brand has been taken off. That's a very, very powerful function, something to be aware of for switching things on and off. Now, you may be a theatre venue, in which case you're probably operating multiple brands. You're probably going to have your own brand for your theatre, and this is the presented by brand, and you'll see that when we set up events. You may have touring companies that want to be presented by their own themselves, in which case you would just add a brand for them and then enter their shows under their brand. So it's very, very flexible, but it's really about how you want to promote, like who is actually the producers of this content, and they are the, if you're say you're just a bar and you have a lot of performers coming through, you might want to set up every performer as their own brand. Now, that's a little bit of extra work, just tell them to give you a logo and you can put them in. Or you might just say, my bar presents, and you're a single brand. But we do recommend being really diligent with your brand work and setting up that hierarchy. It makes it a lot easier to work with rather than just having one brand and a whole bunch of shows under it. But of course, if you are just a theatrical company, you've probably only got one brand and you've got a whole bunch of shows underneath it. So we'll see how this works in a second. Again, your custom URL, if you saw the video on agency, you'll understand how that works, and it gives you a random address, so we might just call that My Theatre Group, which is available. So now CoastBoxOffice.com/b/My Theatre Group is the address that will take visitors to just the content of that brand. We saw with agency, it will show just the content of the agency, which is a broader scope. This is how you can actually point people to just the content of that brand if you want to operate that way. The web address of the brand, if they have their own brand, and in a lot of cases they will, mytheatregroup.com. And if you've got a Facebook page, then paste the address to the Facebook page in as well. And that just makes sure that when people are looking at this brand information, irrespective of the shows, that we're giving them as much information to lead them to the content as possible. They shouldn't have to go from here to your web page to then find out your Facebook page if they want to call you or talk to you on Facebook or see your Facebook. So put it in and we'll send them straight to your Facebook page from here. The images, you can see each image that we allow you to upload has a guideline. In this case, it's 160 by 160 pixels, which is basically a square logo. And I've created one here that I've already made. And we do recommend that you do pre-compose your images. There's a listing under the frequently asked questions about all the different formats. Sort it out beforehand, because we will resize and we will compress, and you may not get the results you want. The reason we do that is we don't just allow you to upload anything because it destroys the flow and the formatting of the system and can look pretty ugly. And to be honest with you, there are some other ticketing sites out there that look shocking because they just allow you to upload anything you want. Here we are, we really push your content into a nice flowing format. So pay attention to those, and the more you can prepare your media beforehand, like I just did in this particular case, the better things are going to appear. So if we save our brand here, we can see we now have My Theatre Group, and now it's allowing us to add an event. So we're always adding events or talent or shows or whatever underneath a brand. So if we look at that again, we can see, yep, the logo's intact. That's how it's going to look. Our other information here, if we want to remove this image and put another one in, we just browse, or we just click, remove, and then go click. We can delete the brand, but we can only delete the brand when it's not in use. And by in use means it's not connected with a whole bunch of events. Once it's connected with events, we can only just turn it on or off. I'll show you what happens. So if we go back to my agency here, we want to associate this agency with a brand. Well, there are currently no active brands, so there's really just no brand. So we need to go back to here, approve this brand for use, and now this brand is active. And we can go back to agency, we can go My Theatre Group is the brand, right? And now when we hit the page again, we will see that My Theatre Group is now at the top, and it will show My Theatre Group's content here, even though we're working under the agency, which is my agency. So that is our brand, and it may be the same as I said before. We may put all our events under here, or we may just create it simply to brand our agency. But then we might be creating other brands. So we're creating another brand here for a touring act or a production, or we want to brand it differently other than My Theatre Group. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's really up to you as to how that works. So that is branding in a nutshell. It's a very, very simple form, but it's top level. So it's very, very powerful in the fact that we can turn things off, and it will just cascade down the system and turn off your shows, turn off your bookings, and just kill it all off. You won't see it. Like, it has to actually be approved for it to be visible publicly. As an agent using the system, of course, you can continue to edit your content. And we strongly advise you to have everything in the pending mode. Check it all out, look at it first, and then submit it live so that it's all ready to go. That's branding. I hope you enjoyed the video.